Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University, and episodes 5 and 6 of Season two's Netflix, Marvel's The Punisher. A whole bunch of titles in there, right? Punisher Season 2, all right? Episode 5 and 6. We got One-Eye Jack and Nakazak. And what does Nakazak mean? Well, I looked it up, and apparently it means punish in Russian. Cool, man. I know a little bit of Russian, but realistically, the only Russian that I actually know is anything that Colossus has ever said in the comic books. Just saying. Tovarich. So check this out, man. The 3-card Monty thing that Amy was doing with Frank was freaking awesome. All right. If I had to make a complaint, is that they gave away what they were doing, because as soon as she said, I forget exactly what she said. She said something to the effect of, "You didn't see it, did you?" So I'm like, there's something to see. Okay, cool. So I rewound it. I think like 5 or 6 times. I don't know how long. I'm just like, all right, this is the last time I'm doing it because I can't see it. I don't know what's going on. Wait a second. I understand what's going on. I think I see what's going on. So I ran it another like 3 more times after that just to be sure. And then I realized with it. And then freaking a minute later, they go and explain it anyway. It's like, it's not fair. I worked for mine, man. I didn't just wait for somebody to explain it to me. That sucked. Anyway, that was cool though. That was definitely cool. And of course, the way that she flipped it the other time, when he went and got it wrong, that was kind of awesome also. She just, made sure she did release the one that we always thought she was releasing in the first place. But no, it's a really good lesson, and I'm going to get to that in a second. But like the lesson, the idea of if you know the trick, that's cool. But what if the dealer knows that you know the trick? So that's the thing, man. Like that's the lesson. And it's cool that his Amy character is smart enough to be able to teach a lesson or two. You know what I'm saying? So she's not just some complete and total jackass. Yeah, I know she's played off as some kind of a complete and total jackass up until around this point. And then there's a couple other times where we realize that she is smarter than you think, smarter than they're leading us on to think. But then again, she's still a little girl. She's still just some, dummy who goes and freaking starts constantly talking about Frank's family, about his daughter and things like that. And I mean, at the end of the day, I think that Frank should be smart enough to understand that she's looking for a father figure, and be a little more understanding with that, because that's clearly what she's trying to do. She's trying to find out more about his daughter so that she can relate a little bit better. She recognizes these things and she's trying to get closer to him. She's trying to bond with him in that regard. All she ever had was that mistress, whatever the heck she was, that always got them into trouble. And she is still having a hard time understanding, I can't believe all this is happening and my friends had to die just because 2 guys kissed. No, it's because you were there doing blackmail game, taking pictures. You had to have known. You yourself were talking about just a couple episodes ago. You put yourself there. You put yourself in that situation. How come it only applies to other people and not you? Because acknowledging our own faults and our own mistakes, well, maybe that's not just a teenage thing. Maybe that's the thing a lot of us need to understand. Relatable? I think so. After that, we got to see the whole mea culpa thing that, John Pilgrim was doing. Sick. I also forgot to mention his tattoos from, was that the first episode or the second? Either way, I think it was the second. I couldn't see what that big tattoo was on his back. It was apparently some big scene or whatever. Maybe it was like a version of the Tree of Life or something. But he had some serious Nazi skinhead tattoos going on. He had the Iron Cross up on here. He had the Reich helmet, and the skull over there. He had them removed, as best as we can. He had it removed like once, as opposed to doing it the second time, which would help to get rid of it a lot faster. Whatever, it's fine. And also his problems with New York City. That was actually pretty interesting. I dug that, and I can relate to it to a degree. I always grew up in more of a suburbs as opposed to the city itself. I've been to the city more times than, imaginable for the most part. Hung out, I learned where all the freaking subways, or not all, but where enough of the subway lines go. You understand a bunch of stuff like that. But I was always able to go home whenever, for the most part, whenever I wanted to. And I have also lived out in, big places like Ohio where there's just a lot more air to breathe. I've lived down in Florida where it's just freaking fire ants, but it's more than that. I've lived out in New Mexico, where you can walk in the desert. Not quite as bad as when I was in Saudi Arabia, but you can walk out in the desert. You can just, oops, I forgot to look at which direction I was walking, and now I'm kind of lost. I can't see the vanishing point of where I was just at, so I'm actually kind of lost in the desert now. Yeah, that can happen, and it's great to be able, not when you're lost, but it's great to have that kind of air around you. But him being there in, going from what I imagine is Pennsylvania to the city itself, and then hearing people coughing and just imagining everybody touching things all over the place. What a great visualization. What a great way to explain that without actually having to tell us. I thought that was great. I loved that. Using my voice too much. It's still not fully recovered from my sickness that went on for a freaking month. Damn flu. What the frick else happened? A whole bunch of stuff happened, man. It was like just so much. These episodes were packed, dude, with so much. There was the Billy Russo stuff where he caught up with his bud. Can't remember what his bud's name was. The black guy who with the one leg, also a former soldier, served with him and Frank. The counselor guy. I was really happy to see him again because he had a lot in the first season, and like he was not necessarily a controlling force, but like he had his stuff together, and that's always cool. Seeing him like towards the end of the second episode, especially being understanding and being able to rally the troops, so to speak. I thought that was cool because he's kind of in a position similar to what Billy's doing right now, everybody's got to get over what happened. Frank seems to be okay with just whatever. It happened, let's move on. What's going to happen tomorrow? Something else will happen tomorrow, right? Billy's got to get over his memory loss, which he's still not fully there yet. Probably not even close, but you get it. Midori, she's got to deal with the idea that she was shot in the head and she trusted this guy and she did hesitate. And if she didn't, she wouldn't have gotten shot in the damn head. And all this other crazy stuff wouldn't be happening. But this guy also, damn it, I can't remember his name, but this guy, the counselor, he had to go through his stuff, the fear that Billy's going to show up at one point, so he's carrying the pistol on him all the time. And when Billy finally does show up, he wasn't ready with the pistol. Well, of course you're not. Gun, and anybody who actually uses a gun, I would imagine, understands that the gun is a false sense of security. You can't have it in your hand all the time. You can't have it aimed all the time. You can't have it aimed in the right direction all the time. Somebody can still come up to you from behind and, you know what I'm saying? You won't even realize it's done. You won't even be alive by the time that your head hits the ground, Like, it can happen. So a gun is a false sense of security. That being said, you probably want to have one in a gunfight. Just saying. So, as silly as that sounds, what have you now? He gets his stuff together and he's able to grab Midori and the Punisher and put them in the same room, tell them to sit down, and they listen in their own separate ways. They do listen to him. And it's cool. So he's kind of like rallying the troops. Billy Russo, for his part, is rallying the troops also. When the one guy, the redheaded kid, goes and says, I knew that you were Billy Russo the moment I saw you, and I just want to shake your hand, sir. I respect everything you've done. He was about to get killed. He probably didn't even realize how close he was to being about ready to be killed, So that all of that was cool. The way that scene moved, like the whole ebb and flow of it was just, it was not necessarily riveting, but for a good hot 2 seconds there was a big question on your mind, like, holy crap, is he going to kill this dude now? I'm glad he didn't. At the same time, this dude's probably going to wish that he did. When they get together and they take out that tow truck driver the way that they did, that was quick, and that was easy. It was the easiest freaking plan to, devise. It was nothing, right? And they were able to just bang, knock that out. Which, of course, did they get away with it? Technically. If you get, the one kid with the glasses whose car was stolen didn't, that was sad. But, like that kid he doesn't have his stuff together. He went into the military, and he came back, you know, more with more bad than good. You know, a lot of us go in, we all come back with something. We're all holding something when we come out, but we try to have as much as we possibly can when we come out. You know what I'm saying? A couple of bucks in our pocket, whole lot of training, the discipline of understanding that rigid society. Realistically, just pause at one of the two scenes where you show, where they show the doctor, the what's her name, the psychologist's notes. That right there was actually, it was good enough. Ah, this sucks. Oh, so anyway, everybody else is in bed, so now I can actually save my voice for 2 more hours when the freaking when I'm ready to do the next video. But I'm going to say something that's going to feel incriminating, but it's not at all. But it's also something I think that a lot of us have to acknowledge, especially if you weren't in the military. To understand a soldier, to understand the depression that we can feel when we come out of the service, whether you've gone overseas or not, whether you've seen action or not, you know, saying whether something bad has happened or not, you take back something with you, and you also leave something. You gain a whole lot more confidence, but confidence comes in you know, everybody thinks, you know, confidence is one thing, love is one thing, hate is one thing. There's lots of different versions of confidence, love, and hate, and any other kind of thought process that you can imagine. There are different versions of it. One of those versions is what they feel in this. I remember when I got out of the military, I was working in McDonald's. I was a maintenance manager. I was the maintenance guy. So, excuse me, I cleaned the fry bins and I swept them off the floors, and I took care of, you know, business. If something was, you know, what needed the weekly maintenance or monthly maintenance, I maintained it, whatever. And I learned a bunch of things. I already knew how to work with my hands. I learned a couple more things, whatever. It was cool. I made a system, and I got to work independently, which was such a perfect idea for me. Now that America may be moving towards $15 an hour, that's pretty damn good. That's really good. Back then, I started off making $6.25. No, $5.25 an hour, something like that. It was nothing. And I got a whole bunch of raises quick because I was really good. And eventually I got made into a maintenance supervisor where I was making $7.20 an hour. But it was salaried, 9 hours a day, no breaks. It was really bad. Plus I was expected to work 6 days a week often. That's just the way that corporations will try and take advantage of you. And this wasn't even a McCopco, it was a franchise. So anyway, while I was working there, I went off and I saw this little computerized, this was before computers, you know, were not in everybody's home, but before there was an internet or anything like that, you know, made available to the public, the greater public. And I remember I was just in this mall. I was in Freehold Raceway Mall in Monmouth County, Jersey. And I'm in there, I'm just hanging out, and I'm looking at this, I was there with a couple of friends, and it's like, you know, you guys go into Friendly's and hang out, and I'm gonna work on this thing. And I started trying to see what kind of jobs are out there for me. And I put in, you know, I was like, oh, they got the military option. I put in, you know, I was in the infantry. I did the blah, 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 all this other stuff. And I got a little bit of, you know, work experience working as a waiter, working in a freaking dollar store. Yeah, little things like that, you know, working cleanup jobs, assistant construction, although that was technically illegal because I was too young. No working papers, but I did what I had to do. And when it came back that I didn't have any matches because I just wasn't qualified enough, I thought to myself, I know how to use guns, rifles, you know, saying sidearms, any kind of gun you can imagine. Well, not any kind of gun, but you get what I'm saying. I've got experience, I've got confidence, I've got proven more than, you know, your average anybody, you know. 7% of Americans join the military. So we're going to, you know, make a rough guesstimation that better than 93% of Americans, I've got a level of confidence and the proven ability to learn on the fly or over time, and to be able to execute a job as though the person delegating the job did it himself. You know what I'm saying? I had amazing skills, but those didn't translate very well. not even as a cop. As a cop, they're more interested in how you voted. Imagine that. So, and if you're curious, they want to know if you voted conservative. So it was very disheartening, very, very disheartening. And yes, sometimes you start to think to yourself, and you can get yourself involved in a really bad group sometimes. I didn't get myself involved in this kind of group, thank God. We all had different times of service when I was in. And when I did get out, it was like, I didn't have any of my friends with me. But if I did, I can only imagine, Yeah, you want to go into fields like protection. And I do know former military guys. And in fact, when I was older and when I was in my 30s, and I did have my act together finally, because you go a long time without having your act together out of the military. That sucks. That sucks. I remember I remember this one lieutenant, I think he was a full bird colonel, I can't remember, but he pulled up, and I was working in a gas station after I was out. And I was just like, I recognized rank, and I'm talking to him. And he's like, so, you left and, what are you doing? I was like, well, I'm just, doing this and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, wow. So all that training, all that work that you got in the military, and you come out in the civilian world, and this is what you got. You're young enough to re-enlist? And I'm telling you, it's such a terrifying feeling that you think that the only thing you're qualified for is being in the military. It's a terrible feeling. You want to know why so many soldiers become drunks? You want to know why so many soldiers go out and they do need this kind of therapy? When people talk about, when regular people, civilians, people who never served, talk about why would someone need therapy? Join the military. Maybe you'll understand. In the meantime, it's a terrifying feeling. It's a depressing feeling. It's a really depressive feeling. And before you get yourself together, you do start to think, maybe I should join some kind of a security team or things like that. And yeah, like I was saying, in my 30s, I was offered that. But I can imagine if I would have fallen in with a group like this. Yeah, I could have honestly seen that happening, because you start to think there's nothing else I know how to do. So when the one guy's talking about, we can go off and we can do a protection agency, the other guy says, we need something bigger. I know a guy. I think we can go and rob a bank. You notice everybody was paying attention. Everybody. Because you start to think to yourself, you know what? What else am I good for? I fully understand where these guys were coming from, and that sucks. And it's really hard to look at these guys as the bad guys. And that includes Billy Russo in this particular regard. Although the idea that he is so manipulative, because he's so charismatic, it's not just his pretty face, obviously. It shows him to be that bad guy that we were saying, watch out for. Again, this show is so damn deep, man. There's so much stuff I'm missing, and it kills me that I'm missing this stuff. I think that we saw that I'm forgetting to mention right now, and I'm not going to make a part 2 to this, but, the thing they showed with the Russian, and yes, I'm going to call that guy the Russian, the guy with I think it was his left ear. He had the cauliflower ear. Oh, yeah. You could tell a freaking boxer when you see one. They got that cauliflower ear, or a mixed martial artist, They have that also. Sometimes wrestlers will have that, sometimes, but usually people who punch a lot. That was just crazy. Like, it took a lot to put that guy down. And you got to think to yourself, we might see him again, because the Russian never truly dies, even when he's killed. We're talking about the comic books, baby. Oh, excuse me. So, all of that when Frank meets the Russian and all those Russians, he spares that one dude, kind of bothered me a little bit. It's like, you're willing to kill all these little flunkies who are just working for $1 because they're all like, well, I'm just doing what I was ordered to do. We've heard that in the military before. But the idea that the guy on top, oh, no, we're going to let him go. Isn't it funny how that pervasive thought even sinks into our television, our media? I don't know that they're doing it on purpose, like to try and indoctrinate us or anything like that, but we are all indoctrinated to that. How many times, case in point, all the crazy stuff that happened in the 2000, should have been 2007, but they waited until 2008. What do you call it? The economic fall, that happened there, the Great Recession, they called it. It was effed up. It was effed up. That was a depression. I don't want to hear it. The so-called Great Recession. All these scams that the bankers did, when later on they're like, what kind of crimes did we do? Well, gee, you son of a gun. You sat there and you waited on people and you what do you call it? They just all the crimes that they did. Jesus Christ. They one of them, I'm trying to understand how to explain it. The wow. Okay, seriously? Brain fart like that? Loans were not supposed to be handed out to regular people like that. There are actually obligations that the fiduciary obligations that these bankers have. They are not supposed to just willy-nilly hand out loans to any old person, people who don't have the financial means to do that. You cannot give someone a loan hoping that you're going to claim their house that they bought. They put a down payment on it. They technically own the house. You really own the house, as the bank. And then when they default on that loan, you just say, oh, mine, because you were really looking to get that house because you know that you can resell that house. That is illegal business practice. And that is probably the most minor of the crimes that they've done. They've done far worse. And yet only one person was arrested, and it was a low-level employee. Wow, imagine that. So the idea that, the people at the top, they're too big, like Obama went and said, how dare you, jackass, went and said, these banks, they're too big to fail. I used to work at Lucent, the biggest, in my opinion, the biggest damn company in the world, the biggest electronics company in the world, engineering company. We did an awful lot. And the reason why they became Lucent is because AT&T had to break up because they were too big. Yeah, so we were broken up. So why can't banks be broken up out of curiosity, So yeah, all that crazy stuff. Nobody seems to go to jail. They're too big to fail. I'm up so high on the food chain. I didn't know that every single one of my employees were told to go around and do bank scams with people and calling people up and telling them to buy stocks that we knew were penny stocks, but we tried to sell them as bigger stocks. We knew that they were junk bonds, but we tried to resell them anyway as though they were big bonds. Yeah, also illegal stuff, just saying. Lots of people should have gone to jail, and every single one of them should have been the guys with the most expensive suits. Just saying. Yet somehow, we're indoctrinated enough to believe that the big guys shouldn't go to jail. And likewise, I see that here in the show. This big guy, I've got a daughter. All those other kids, the other people that you killed, their sons and daughters themselves. Forget about the idea they probably got kids. So what the hell? What the hell? Is that all you got to do? Remember that. If a guy in a white skull shirt comes running after you because you did something bad, just be like, I got a daughter. I just want to go home and watch my daughter play the violin because I love her and I want to be there for her. You'll be okay. Don't matter that you just killed, 16 people. You're good. Punisher will let you go. No, that was dumb. I didn't like that. Didn't like that at all. That guy should have been the first to go. And you know what? In my opinion, the hero is John Pilgrim. Because he's just like, boop, boop. Oh, hey, how you doing? You want to close your eyes? You're still going to die. You're just going to die in the dark. And he popped him. Bye-bye. No closed casket for you. Or no open casket for you. But, maybe. Just seal up that little thing, put a little makeup on it. It's what they do anyway. So much to unpack in this. And although some of the little things like that did bug me. The pedophile, that's kind of messed up too. And he's probably one of the bigger reasons for pedophilia in the country, because in part of the world, like when you got 15-year-olds being the ideal body size for women, it doesn't just affect women and make them want to, purge and go anorexic. No, it also affects guys, because sometimes it makes them think, well, if that's the ideal women, and I don't see adult women like that, those kids sure look like that. Because the people that we're seeing who are the ideal body type, who are the sexiest women in the world, according to these magazines, they're 15. I wonder why there's so many pedophiles in the world. Is it an excuse for them? No. But I think that we should be arresting other people than just the people who are in themselves, in some ways, victims. Yeah, we should be going after the big ones. So go after people like, Versace. Well, now it's her daughter at this point. But yeah, go after all of them. Anyway, that's just my silly opinion on that stuff. Maybe it don't matter. But, yeah, so there were other things that they clearly could have addressed in this. A whole lot that they could have addressed. But Punisher, I guess, has to stay street level. It's funny, because all of this stuff reminds me of other things. And while the previous 2 episodes really dug into that, these 2 episodes, specifically this final episode, the Nakazak, the episode 6, really seemed to be upping the ante, but Punisher didn't go after those people. That bugged me, man. That bugged me. You ever seen Punisher, The End? That was probably one of the better. I know a lot of people are like, oh, he just went after some bankers and he killed them. I don't think people realize just how significant that was. That's what he should have done in the first place. His very first kill should have been those bankers, if he knew how to, if he had the access to do that. You know, go back and read Punisher, The End. It's supposed to be the final Punisher story. He went after big bankers. And I think, like, yeah, man, I'm not suggesting that we go out and hurt big bankers. No, I think they should be arrested, though. No chance for bail, because obviously they can make it. What do you call it? But they, that's the kind of Punisher story that I guess I was silly for expecting they might actually go and do something like that. Because when you think about it, who are the executives paying for this stuff, right? What a shame. What a shame. Anyway, I was hoping they were going to go in some way, shape, or form in that direction. Maybe they still can. But it seems like, all the superhero TV shows, and a lot of times the comic books also, they're really only going for the little guys, the local guys. Like the idea that Batman is actually Bruce Wayne, the richest guy in Gotham. And what does he do? Instead of sinking money into really good programs that are going to help people, no, we only see him for the most. You might see that in 1 or 2 issues once in a while, but what do you see in every single issue? Him punching some low-level crook in the face who grew up broke. You know what I'm saying? Who grew up broke, never had a chance in hell, and he's just trying to do what he can to survive. Man, what a damn shame. So it's funny. It's funny. Seriously, all this happened while I was making this video. Me realizing the fault in this. That would probably be the biggest fault for me. Because I do try and stay aware of these things. Woke? Nah. Just aware. Just aware. So, kind of a rant. A little bit depressed now. Damn. I should probably go have a tub of ice cream. Nah, I'm good. Anyway, so I'm going to watch the next episodes. Try and forget about that. Just try and stick with the idea. God, my voice, it hurts. Just try and stick with the idea that we're going to be shooting low-level bad guys for the most part. And it's the bad guys who are going to be shooting the big-level dogs because the Punisher didn't want to do that. And hope that he goes and starts visiting some other people. We'll see. Ah, jeez. No, can't get out of my mind. Department of Homeland Security. That's where this girl's from. Dina Maduri. Department of Homeland Security is on furlough right now. Right now as we speak. 28th day, going into the 29th day. Oh, no, it's 1:21 in the a.m. So now it's the 29th day of the government shutdown. Yeah, the military's still active, but Department of Homeland Security, they're not being paid. So a couple of them are furloughed to work. And that includes the Coast Guard, because the Coast Guard is a military service that does not work that is not overseen by the Department of Security. What the hell are they called? Department of Security. Department of Homeland Security is where the Coast Guard answers to. But the Department of Defense, there we go. That's what the 4 branches of the military go for. But the Coast Guard, they report to the Department of Homeland Security, which is not being paid. So Coast Guard, people who are supposed to protect against immigrants and drugs coming into the country, not being paid. Damn it. Punisher's going after the wrong people. I'm just saying. Anyway, next episode. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.